right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Subspace Developer Sync. We're going to go through the engineering team and see what everybody's been working on since we met up last week. Leo, would you start off with your update, please?
Yeah, I realized that I have a new task regarding the relayer container. So today in the morning, I was creating a new virtual machine to test this container. And I am running the last scripts to create the container. And it's running actually. For now, I have to do some manual configurations because I have to mount the block data extra volume to the container actually. So I was having some problems in there. So I will document that and send it to Serge for testing. And I also add everyone to Datadog organization. I don't know if you get the mail, guys. If everyone got the mail, yeah. So as soon I have this running in a stable mode, you will get receiving the Docker logs for in this machine, in this new machine.
Okay, so we don't have that container running and connected to Datadog yet for the archiver or the relayer?
For the current, I suppose that I can just run the Datadog container and it will work. But I was creating in a new one to not messing with the current search work.
Right.
Just
Okay.
in case. Yeah, just in case.
And Serge, do you have access to that yet?
To Datadog? Yes, I just checked recently.
Or to the new relayer droplet that we're going to run the archiver from Genesis on?
The one on DigitalOcean?
Yes.
Yeah, I already had it last
Okay,
week.
so we're, but the one that's running in Docker, not the old one.
Not the one in Docker.
No, I'm not already. I have not shared with Serge, but it's just a new password and a new IP, so there's no problem with that.
Okay, so let's get that shared right after the meeting, and I guess we'll talk about the archiver, but the main reason for that was so that when it crashes, we have logs that we can go in and see why it actually crashed, because before it's just kind of, we're guessing. So it's important to get that, but we'll talk more about the status of the relayer in a second, I guess. Okay, and then what else have you been working on, Leo?
No, just that because I had this problem with the health summary, and that was in Wednesday in the night. So I lost until I have lost until today. Yeah.
Okay. And what are you going to be working on next, other than the Docker issue?
Subspace JS in the API. Yeah. The two methods to post and get object.
Okay. Well, we can't. Yeah, we'll focus on the post side right now because we can't really do much on the get other than define the outer API. But cool. So we can talk about that tomorrow in the app sync.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Any questions?
I have a question for anyone that uses Docker. I was checking that I was trying to add this, I don't know, 16 gigabyte data to my container. And I think that I have some problems in there because I think that Docker copied the mounted file, the mounted directory, no?
Typically don't add any files like that to the container. You would rather mount existing folder to the container. So it just has access, but it's not part of the container image.
So the container get access to this directory, like
yeah, you just build a container image with your code or like your application, and you mount additional stuff as you need. So like with the node and farmer, we create a volume and we mount a volume instead of building an image with that data.
Okay, got it.
All right, thanks, Leo. Any questions for Leo from the group? Okay, Liu-Cheng, you're up next.
Okay, so I got just to try and share my screen. Okay, could you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so yeah, just as usual, no, nothing special. Like in this PR, I changed the PS type.
Hey, Liu-Cheng, sorry about.
Okay.
We can go through the PRs in detail on the protocol sync call. This is just like the
Okay.
stand-up where we just give like a 2 or 3 minute overview on what we've been working on and what we're going to work on next. Kind of more like a Scrum style stand-up.
Okay, sorry.
Sorry.
So last week I was like still working on some refactoring PRs, and another part was to like for the decoupled execution, like we have several meetings, and basically I have an overall idea for the next stage. Yeah, and in this week I'll work on the like Genesis refactoring and again the decoupled execution. Perhaps we can like start the implementation work this week, hopefully, for the decoupled execution. Yeah.
Great. And did you get a chance to look at the video that Nazar shared from Magneto Labs or Mangata Labs, sorry, from Substrate Developer Sub-Zero conference?
On which topic? I haven't looked at that.
Nazar shared it in the development. Yeah. Yeah.
Haven't.
So,
I missed that.
yeah, if you can watch that, that would be really useful for you. These guys have already done a lot of the work that we're trying to do. So it would be a probably top priority to review what they're doing before we start writing anything.
Okay, cool. In which channel? I missed that message.
It's in development news under engineering.
Okay, thank you. I'll check that.
And have you started looking into the way Polkadot handles this with parachains?
Okay, this one I have watched before. Okay, I know the.
You have seen this video.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, let's talk about that more then at the next call. I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that.
Okay. Yeah. This is on my end.
All right. Any questions for Liu-Cheng? All right. Serge, you're up next.
Yeah, so I keep working on Relayer. Last week I started to work on the update for transaction submission for archive blocks until it became irrelevant due to some changes over the weekend by Nazar. So I was mostly checking those changes and discussing how my next parts will fit together. And currently I'm back to working on transition from archive blocks to real-time blocks.
Okay. So what's the status right now? Is it just kind of based on Nazar what you're doing? for the archiver? You're kind of blocking Serge until you get that finished, or?
No. It was already merged. Just
Okay.
my branch. So the update I was working on, it became not like necessary due to changes that Nazar did in his branch, and those changes are already merged.
Okay. So what's the current status of the test archiving?
I haven't tested, frankly speaking, yet. Have you, Nazar?
Okay, I guess we'll wait for Nazar's update on that. So you're working on transitioning from archiving to relaying?
Yeah. Something that was priority last week, but yeah, was postponed. So now I'm back on.
Okay. What's the ETA on that right now for having something completed?
Well, from what I understand, it will require a bit of refactoring if we want to, like, if real-time processing has to follow the diagram that Nazar created on Lucid. So, but I think my previous estimate, like around 5 days or a week, is still there.
5 days from today?
Sorry?
5 days from today?
Yeah, because I wasn't working on this last week.
Okay. Wow. So it's going to take us another week just to get it to handle the transition between backend archiving to relaying. Okay. So it'll work in either case, but it just can't make the jump between the two correctly.
Yeah. And we are not having, so on archive blocks, we now have batching of transactions. So this is something Nazar was working on. And yeah, for real-time blocks, we don't have it yet. So this will be implemented within this scope as well.
Do we have to have batching in real time? Is that critical, or
Well,
is that an improvement?
I think it makes sense because if we, for example, resync blocks and there is a range of blocks like to be resynced, then batching will be significant performance boost for submitting those blocks.
Okay. Okay, let's take this offline. We'll have another call to discuss this before our Thursday call. We'll set that up later. Okay. Any other updates, Serge?
No.
Okay. Any questions for Serge? Okay. Ozgun, you're up next.
Sure. I was working on farmer binary to library, and farming abstraction was complete. I was working on plotting abstraction. It's completed. It was completed on Friday, actually. And I removed anyhow errors handling from both libraries, both farming and plotting. So I was working on it today, and also Nazar had some suggestions on the pull request. So I reviewed all the suggestions, implemented them, and mostly this was error handling. Now libraries have proper error enums. And other than that, let me check. Yeah, that's all. And as the next step, I will start on mock RPC client implementation as planned. That's the update on my side.
Okay. Thanks, Ozgun. Any questions for Ozgun? Okay. Nazar, you're up next.
Initially, I was working on the farmers on relayer side because that was a higher priority. Most of my changes were upstream to Polkadot, and we've updated dependencies today to include those changes. I was also that was like investigation on the side of what are the limitations of the Polkadot.js itself. And the next step was to offload the signing process, which was relatively expensive, to the worker pool. So now we can do more stuff in the main thread. And that was still not enough to get very good performance. It was around 500 blocks per second. We wanted much more. So I decided to use the Pellet utility and its batching functionality that Liu-Cheng merged earlier that week. And with that in mind, we are able to deliver about 1600 blocks per second. Initially, when they're small, there are actually two limits. One is 3.5 megabytes per block, and the other one is 5,000 transactions or blocks per block. So when either of those limits is achieved, we basically submit a transaction to the Subspace network to store those that batch of blocks. And when we go to the end of the history, it's like 200 blocks per transaction because transactions are bigger. So it varies throughout the history of Kusama, for instance. And I was able to archive Kusama in under 6 hours. I'm actually still running that version of the chain. It's 43,000 blocks. The plot size is almost 100 gigabytes, and the chain state is almost 50 gigabytes. So everything is in line. Everything seems to work fine.
Question on
And-
that, Nazar, is that on your machine or is that in DigitalOcean?
It's on my machine.
Okay, so we don't have any.
Reviewed earlier today. It's only merged like a few hours ago.
Okay, so we don't have any live archivers right now that are running in DigitalOcean.
No.
Okay, so that took 6 hours to back up on your machine. That was for Kusama. And what did it do when it got to the head of the chain? Did it just stop?
It just exits.
Just exits. Okay.
After that, I discovered that we actually no longer have object mapping for those transactions because that is like a separate palette, separate call. So I've implemented support for that in the Substrate node, in Subspace node, and added also tests. And that by extension actually implements tests for the palette feeds mapping because we didn't have standalone tests for that. So we just cover both. During the end of last week, I was also working on Substrate
Hang on.
upgrade.
Sorry, question on that too. So we were not, you lost me there. We weren't actually implementing object mappings, or they weren't being called?
We implemented object mapping for the palette feeds. But
Right.
with batch transactions, we have actually the palette utility, which contains palette feeds as inner objects.
Okay,
And we didn't process that higher level thing.
so it just doesn't work in a batching mode.
Yeah, it didn't work. It works now. I implemented it like looks inside of those.
Got it.
And then I was working earlier. I was working on the upgrade for November Substrate upgrade. It was relatively minor on our side. When I was trying these higher performance relaying features, I found a few issues. One of them was weights on extrinsics, so I fixed those and made sure to mark extrinsics as not paying or free to submit in slightly different way. That instead of charging for transaction and then refunding, it doesn't charge at all, so it emits less events. Then I found that when we have a really big block, the way we serialized it for JSON was actually too big to fit into 10 megabytes by default. So I fixed that problem. So the farmer can receive those. Then I found that under some edge cases, longevity didn't really work with the value of 0, so we had to change it to 1. At that point, I think we've covered most of the basic errors and problems that we have. And it seems to work, and I think we should redeploy our testnet to try those. And since I was basically done with that, I think if the performance is satisfactory, we can move on. And I worked on the update of our implementation to the specification. So I fixed or like changed the local challenge implementation to use signatures instead of public key hash. And And I was also spending some time watching different talks from Sub-Zero and digging into different projects, trying to understand what they're doing and how. So on that, how they call it, Mangata Finance, they basically have what they call decoupled execution, but actually what it is in practice, I think they just delay block execution by one block. So they execute the previous block every time. And they do that in order to derive some randomness to shuffle transactions. But they shuffle it in a way that they keep ordering for the same account. So when you have a series of transactions in the same block, they do not get shuffled and broken because of that. And they actually had that talk that explains like how they did it, but basically they have a fork of Substrate when they modified a bunch of things that make it possible. So I'm wondering whether we need to start a discussion and involve those folks to maybe expose some APIs or think how it can be done more nicely in less invasive way, because we basically want to have transaction shuffling eventually, and we want to have decoupled execution, which is probably orthogonal to this, but this is how they call it.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk about that. Okay. Well, I'm sure we'll go into that in a lot more detail in the next call, Nazar. Okay, so just try to make sure I understand here. So we have implemented batching. We fixed all the bugs. We've now got high throughput archiving from Genesis. We can do Kusama in roughly 6 hours. So that means we can probably do everything in like 8 hours, realistically, maybe 12, for all the parachains that we have right now. So the next step is we need to have Leo get the relayer instance working on DigitalOcean within a Docker container that is connected to Datadog so that we can see the logs. And then we need to start that relayer with all of these updates, or sorry, that archiver with all of these updates, and make sure that it actually runs. And how long does it take? In the meantime, Serge, you are working on implementing this transition, which we need to figure out a way to get to a minimal version of that within the next couple days. And we also have, will the archiver work for all parachains right now, or is there additional work to be done before we can run all of them in parallel?
It doesn't work in parallel, but it does support any chain. For parallel, there is like a to-do, one small fix which needs to be investigated. Basically, you can remove the line and it will work, but instead of finishing and exiting, it will just hang. That's the only difference.
Okay. Does it do them like one by one, like in a loop, or does it do them?
It's asynchronous in parallel, everything at once.
Okay. Okay. So we could just run that to test it. It'll just hang at the end. So I think that's fine. I mean, we'll be lucky if it makes it all the way through. I'd be pleasantly surprised if that happened. Okay. So since we have all of those backed up in DigitalOcean right now, we can run that with all parachains from Genesis and the relay chain and test that as soon as we have that instance working. Okay. Okay, Leo, can you make it your priority to get that droplet set up in Docker connected to Datadog?
Yeah.
And then Serge, can you start that instance and start the testing of that? Get that going so we can see how it performs.
Sure.
Okay.
But for Docker, we need to first have Docker file, which needs to be a pull request into the repository, and we need to build an image. I'm not sure how it was set up, but this is how it should be, just like we have Docker files in other repositories.
Okay. Can you handle that, Leo?
Yeah, I got the Docker file created, and I just pasted in the virtual machine to test it. And as soon as it's working, I make the pull request.
Awesome. Okay.
And we back up all parachains, right? Not just Kusama. We back up everything this time.
Yes, right, Leo? We have all those?
Yeah, we yeah, in the storage we have all the data for all the parachains.
Yeah, and I think we also need to go through and rerun the script to update all of those as well, because they're what, like several days or a week old now. That's like a snapshot as of like last Sunday or Monday of those parachains in Kusama.
Yeah, it's a little bit older.
Yeah.
For the new machine, I got the new ones from the from the source.
Sorry?
I mean, we have the last data that I know is in this boot node that we have previously created, and I was just copying that data to the new droplet.
Right, but that was created like a week ago or something. It's not yesterday.
No, I am working with a new one, so it should be updated, I think.
It's not updated, it's an archive. It was just created and it sits there.
We have to download the blocks. That's what you mean?
Yeah.
The last,
If you want to update, you need to run a script to actually like add new blocks to it.
Okay, I will.
So that's just a snapshot that Nazar created. That snapshot's over a week old now. So there's another script that you have to run for each parachain that updates it and like kind of moves the snapshot forward. So that's something that we have to do manually right now.
It's not critical. I think it will be able to catch up that 1 week. It's not that much of data comparing to the whole history before that.
It's not critical, but it's something that we just need to get in the habit of doing, especially if we're not like the batching, you know, if that's an optimization. If it's going to take us more time to write the code than just to update the thing, update the snapshot, then we should just update the snapshot so that we can get it deployed sooner. So that we don't have to have a bottleneck of like how long it takes for the real-time relayer to sync the diff between the snapshot and the current head. Okay.
Don't worry. Noted.
Got it. Okay, Justin, you're up next.
Awesome. So I've been working on getting us submitted into blockchain or Rust in blockchain. I got our information added to our repo that you had previously made, Jeremiah. I just need to submit that pull request to the upstream. From there, another thing I've been working on is trying to get the JSON RPC requests for the Bootstrap node to work over HTTP, so I can do easier status requests. I've been getting a connection refused error that I've been talking with Nazar about. I think I figured out the issue. By the looks of it, it looks like the port for that connection is opened in Docker, but it's not explicitly specified in the Substrate commands. I just wanted to verify before I started messing with anything. You guys are all doing all of the relayer work and everything on different nodes. Am I good to restart the Bootstrap node and test with that?
You can restart it, but you don't necessarily have to wipe it.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on wiping it. I was just going to add like a flag to the command.
Yeah, that should be doable.
Okay. And then from
how many other nodes do we have connected to it right now?
I think it's
that are farming?
I had the telemetry open. Yeah, it looks like there's
0.
So I have my node up. So there's 3, or technically 2, I guess, on the main chain, and then there's a couple on the alternative chains that Nazar and everyone else is working on as well.
That are actually farming, or that are just verifying?
My node is farming, and I believe there's 1 farmer running on the Bootstrap node itself. So that should be 2 farmers, unless I'm mistaken.
Okay. Just want to make sure that we're not halting block production whenever we shut it down.
Okay. Yeah. I'll make sure my node's running properly before I restart it or anything like that.
Okay.
And then from there, I think I found a good status service for us to switch over to. Uptam.com. We'll be able to use their baseline monthly thing, which is just $12 a month. It comes with standard service level agreements, a nice public status page with various details and things like that. So I was getting us set up on the trial of that. And then I was just gonna, if we decide to move that route, get it fully set up.
And this is like a paid version of what you've already got in our status page?
Yeah, so I was going to shut down the homebrew version I've been running prior if we decide to switch to that. But I mostly just wanted to make sure it'll work with the substrate node before like paying for it and doing the full jump in.
Okay. And what, sorry, I wasn't aware we were looking into that. What's the advantage of that over what we have right now? Because I know you spent a lot of time building that.
I remember last week we were just talking about how the status page itself, the one that I had built, was a little lackluster. Didn't quite provide the depth and detail that was needed. And I was thinking just obviously like overall, I guess, time, not having to continue to invest time into a homebrewed solution, just having something that was, I guess, managed. I thought that was my takeaway from our meeting last week. I thought you wanted us to go that route. I'd be happy to keep working on the other one that I had done.
My bad if I was confused there. Okay, well, if you can share with us what you're looking at, so we can, like with Nazar and I, what the tool that you're thinking of switching to, because if we have a homebrewed solution, we can customize it much easier to what we need, and we're probably gonna have a lot of stuff we need to customize. Whereas if we have some off-the-shelf solution, it's not really clear. It might actually be more work to customize it, even though it might have some richer interface. So yeah, if you can share that with us on Discord, and we'll give you some feedback there.
Can do. And then beyond that, my biggest focus other than that has just been getting the ambassador program, getting the wheels moving on that, so we're ready for these guys once we bring them on board.
Okay. And so the status page right now will not show if the testnet is down.
Not yet, no. I was trying to get see which route we wanted to go on that. But if we want to stick with our homebrewed one, I can get that fixed pretty quickly.
Yeah, let's just do that for now, so that we have some notification if the testnet crashes.
Can do.
Okay. Okay, guys. Any questions for Justin? All right. On my side, I have been working on preparing on the financial matters that we're working on in the background, and nothing really specific to engineering other than working with Nazar and Liu-Cheng on the decoupled execution, and talking with Srivatsan and Dr. Say about the design for that, and also the scalability design. We're going to have a more detailed conversation on the horizontal scaling tomorrow with Dr. Say to get his feedback on that. But the initial feedback from Srivatsan was that it was actually more secure than we expected. Yeah, that's about it. Any questions for me? Okay. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again in a couple days with our next developer update.